Good morning and welcome to ATM Saturday. ATM Saturday is a syndicated news and current affairs program where our correspondents bring us very interesting stories from the field. It holds 7 to 10 every Saturday. And on ATM Saturday, we have 3 segments. And the first segment is lifestyle and entertainment. Second segment has to do with economy and business. The last segment is governance and politics. First, we bring you stories from the entertainment and lifestyle. Today we have a story, a little report on marriage. On entertainment and lifestyle today, we present a story of a traditional wedding in Port Harcourt. We also discuss the difference between traditional wedding and the wedding and white wedding and the significance of each of them. Our correspondent, Uti Duff, was at the traditional wedding ceremony of Chinwendu and Ironese held at Zaida Center, Odili Road in Port Harcourt. Now let's give you the details of the event. The ceremony was graced by colorful personalities from different walks of life, friends and well-wishers. The white wedding is taking place today by 10 a.m. Let us listen to the sights and sounds of the event. We'll take some track-ups from the event right now, sights and sounds of that wedding that took place at Odili Road.
Thank you, the Universal Band. How far you gone so far? The dance. Chromatic Dance, RSA 314CW. Abuja plate number. Chromatic Dance. Mercedes Benz, please, not Legacy Benz. Go and refer. RSA 314CW. Abuja. Chromatic.
The wonderful person, he's humble, very respectful. That's how we were able to work together. And the wife also, she's a great person. So my family, are great. So it's a good thing that we're here today. And it's all
Well, you got some of the sounds and sights of that wedding that took place at Zaida Event Center here in Port Harcourt between those two couples. It looks like an interethnic marriage. Yeah. And I have 2 of my key speakers here in the studio. Ikechukwu Obowu, right? Okay. You're welcome to the Ikechukwu Obowu, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And I have Alex Solomon here in the studio. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
The sights and sound of that wedding, which we got here, which our cameramen captured with their lenses, it will trigger off a discussion this morning, and that discussion is on the difference between traditional wedding and white wedding, and why traditional wedding, why white wedding. Well, of course, you know that my name is Bon Woke and I'm the anchor man for this show. Sorry we came in a little bit late. But the show we roll on. That's how we do it here on ATM, talking about Atlantic Television Network here in the Garden City. We don't let any moment go by without bringing you beautiful stories. Indeed, if you are doing a wedding and you are doing any social function and you want to market it, I'm sorry, to promote it on this program, we will give it to you, because this program has 3 segments, and the first segment is devoted to your entertainment, to listen to issues on lifestyle and what have you. So you can bring us your own story and it will go on this show. And of course, you can watch us on our social media platforms right here on our screen. We come to you live every Saturday, 7 o'clock to 10 a.m. in the morning. All right, gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we will talk about the issue of marriages. Well, marriage ordinarily could be described as the relationship between husband and wife, right?
Yeah, the union.
The union. And it is, when you look at weddings, for example, they signal the beginning of a family, of a society.
Yes.
The family is the microcosm of the larger society.
Yeah.
The family is the beginning of the society, as it were. And I remember my clergyman, my bishop, described the marriage as a mini ecclesia, even at the church level. But it begins somewhere. It begins with the kind of event we saw right on the screen a few minutes ago. And so let's look at marriage, traditional marriage, for example. Sometimes people look at traditional marriage as being inferior to white wedding. I don't know why that happens.
As the name implies, traditional marriage, it is the culture of a people. It is a marriage that takes place in our locality.
Yeah.
And every tribe, every religion, every culture have their own kind of marriage.
Yeah.
And here in our own country, it is the first step of marriage before you go into the white wedding.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not everybody that do the white wedding, because the white wedding is for the Christians.
Yeah.
And the traditional marriage is a must, because you need the consent of the parents. And after the consent of the parents, of course, there will be a ceremony to show the entire village
Yeah.
that their daughter is getting married and is leaving the home. So I think traditional marriage is a necessity when it comes to marriage in our own locality.
Yeah.
I don't see any need for white wedding. My reasons are these. I see the two events as the same. One is traditional to the white man, and the other one is traditional to the African. I think what we need is to kind of modernize our traditional marriages such that the same marriage certificate that is issued in white wedding can be issued in traditional gathering. Because when you go for white wedding, the clergyman would ask you, have you paid the bride price? Signaling that the most authentic form of marriage should be that which you've done with the family of the girl, not necessarily the white one. However, if people choose to, I see it as a leisure, not a necessity, while that of the traditional is necessary, because you can't do anything white without doing the traditional. The traditional is more important to me than the white.
Well, traditional is foundation because it comes from an ethnic group. Yeah. And the wedding we just watched looks like an inter-ethnic wedding. Well, the important thing is that you belong. The church has its own tradition. For the Catholic Church, for example, does not believe that you can do anything without the church. That's the Catholic faith for you. You cannot do anything without the church. And so, if you must marry within the church circle. So among Christians, yes, traditional marriage should just be a consent, where you give consent, where the parents of the bride gives consent to her being taken out in marriage, where the family generally, because African society is made up of families. Yeah. It's not just mother and father. So the entire family, the kindred and all that gives consent. That's what traditional marriage is to the Christians. Most Christian communities. And so it is in the church where it is solemnized, that gives it credence, that kind of religious stamp of acceptance. If not, like in the Catholic Church, you will not be given communion. You will not be accepted as a full member of the body of Christ. Because there is this belief that the traditional marriage is not standardized. Do you have that? It's not standardized because sometimes there are rituals. Drinks are sent to shrines and all that. There are things that actually impinge on or inhibit its purity, as it were. And so you are supposed to dedicate your marriage to the church. To dedicate to this. Some churches call it church blessing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you are given a certificate. But there are two kinds of white wedding. Two kinds of white wedding. The church wedding and the statutory wedding, where you register at the local government marriage registry. Local government marriage registry. Or you register, that's what it is. Some people call it court marriage. That's the popular one. Now, the question has always been, must anyone undergoing any kind of matrimonial relationship go through all this hog?
Yes, you know, in our own society, in our Nigerian society, if you cannot do anything without the culture. Everybody come from a place, and every place have their norms, beliefs, cultural practices. So there's no way you can you know, leave one for one. That is why I said that traditional marriage is the first instance.
Yeah.
So you, of course, there is need. Traditional marriage is for your culture or tradition. Then you do the court wedding, as it is generally called, which is that of the society where you belong. And then you also belong to a religious organization. It could be you could be a Muslim.
Yeah.
You could be a traditional what's it called? You could be an atheist or any other religion, or a Christian, and you need to bring your wife into that fold. So there's no how you can avoid doing the Christian wedding or the religious wedding
Or the court registration.
Because the court registration is that of the society, which the governance. There's no way you can avoid that one. You can also not avoid that of the traditional marriage, because parents must give their consent.
Yeah.
And that is why when you go to this other area, that of the society, they will still ask you if the parents have given their consent.
Yeah.
When you go to the Christendom, they will still ask you if the parents are giving their consent. So, except you don't belong to the Christian fold, that is when you now begin to choose that of the traditional marriage, which is a must. And in our society, if you don't undergo that process, they won't see you as responsible. So in some tradition, if you don't carry out those rituals, of course, whatever child you have with the woman doesn't belong to you. The parents of the woman will claim their child because you have not done the what is necessary.
Now look at it this way. From what we have seen, it implies that we must do two types of marriages. The two types of marriages are compulsory, because you have to get the family consent, one, and then two, you have to register your marriage with a statutory body so that the marriage can have societal acceptance, because that is part of governance structure in Nigeria. Okay. And even beyond. For example, if you are going to the embassy, you want to travel with your wife, you are not going to present the traditional marriage certificate.
Yes.
You are not even going to present the church marriage certificate alone, even though some churches are licensed to issue certificates. You must present a statutory registration of your marriage.
Well, the thing is, I find it to be unfortunate because, you know, putting a family through such process, rigorous process, where they have to perform almost 3 kinds of marriage, which is the traditional, and then the statutory, and the religious. It is something that has come to stay. However, it is never too late to restructure this system. Marriage is an institution, so it is never too late to restructure it in such a way that you can incorporate these whole aspects, and then you have one unique way of doing this thing. I may not have the blueprint of how it can be done, but I believe it is possible. Because when I go for such events, and then after the traditional, we are having another event again, repeating the same process now in a different environment, the religious environment. It's just like repeating almost the same thing, because at the religious environment, the clergyman is standing in as the spiritual father.
Yeah.
You know, giving spiritual consent, as it were.
And then instructions.
Yeah. And then this is something the father has already done. So for me, as a person, if I'm to make recommendations, it will be for there to be a kind of restructuring where the church will be involved in the traditional process.
At the same time.
Yes. Such that if the family says we are Christians, nothing stops them from bringing the clergyman to be part of that.
With the church be there, that's the problem.
So
if you're the Query land, they bring it to Obiri, and the church will be there. That will be a small wedding now.
Yeah, if we can restructure it to have such kind of a event,
that's your recommendation.
It will be a very nice one, because it will save the couple the time, the stress, and the resources.
Yeah, you talked about resources. Yes, that's very important, resources, because marriages are becoming very expensive these days. When a couple had to spend a huge sum of money or some huge sums of money doing the traditional marriage, after which they will go to do the white marriage. If it is church, they will still have an elaborate celebration in an event center or in a chosen center. If it is church, if it is statutory registration without the church, they will still have such an elaborate event, because I see many people who do traditional and then do the statutory.
Yes.
And then maybe later on their own walk into a church and do what they call church blessing.
Yeah.
That's very common. But in all its ramification, most people spend 2 times.
Yes, yes. If you talk about the expenses in marriage, I think for the man no get problem at all. It is the women.
Okay, to go Bo is a comedian. He will always be comedy into this.
It is the women that will always want to spend excessively.
Yeah.
You know, their man will just come up with, when you want to do that of the white wedding, you just come up with your suit and your shoes, and of course you are good to go with your tie. You're done. But the woman will get the wedding gown, very expensive one, because they want to prove to the world that they are married. They want something. They want to showcase to their friends that finally they have left the spinsterhood and they've gone into marriage. Then when you go to make up, somebody that used to make up very, very well now wants to spend 100,000 for just one day.
One day.
You know. So if we can really cut down, because we spend so much. Sometimes we go to anyway, it depends on a person's pocket and
the majority,
your level in the society.
Do spend a lot of money. Yeah.
Sometimes I call it a waste, even though it favors us, because when you call us for such event, we look at the amount you are ready to spend and then we bill you into it. But that's the society. You can't take such a thing from the bourgeoisies. You can't take it away from them. But I think the women makes us spend so much in marriage.
Is that expenditure necessary in a wedding? Is it necessary that people spend so much? So nowadays that the economy is very hard, people spend so much, and at the end of the day, after borrowing such a lot of money from this from people, they come back home and stay broke. And sometimes these things affect the marriage. Is it necessary for such elaborate expenditure and bogus events?
Well, it is not. It is not, because people should be more interested in what comes after the celebration.
Yeah.
Now, in celebrating, people shouldn't be concerned with what people will say, how they will see their events. Okay, like Okechukwu pointed out, most ladies would prefer a situation where they show off to their friends, their peers on social media and other platforms that they had an elaborate celebration. And this whole thing is on the head of the man. You know, he's thinking of where he got the money, how he got the money. Even those that have it, they are like, some of them will be thinking, if I had invested this in 1 or 2 other ventures, I should be scooping in profits. So now you're bringing in these expenses just to host an event for a day and then face whatever that follows afterward. There are people that have gone into debt just to meet up with these societal expectations, and at the end of the day, some of them even end up divorcing themselves.
Yeah.
So it is not.
Yeah, go ahead. It will lead to divorce.
Yes.
It is not necessary. It is not necessary. As long as I'm concerned, it is not necessary. But if people choose to make such expenses, who am I? They should carry on. But there is no need for it.
Well, there's no need for it. Let's look at some other. Do you have much to add? Anything to add to that?
If I want to speak from the entertainment angle of
yes.
it, I think
Yes.
I'll be talking from two sides of my mouth. That is where the expense is necessary, because
Event managers must eat.
yes, because it
it's
will
a vocation.
now engage a lot of people.
He's promoting his business.
It will now engage a lot of people, and it will make the event a memorable one. But excessive spending is
Yes.
really
Yes.
something
Let's
to-
talk about event management. Are you satisfied with the way event managers handle weddings these days, or do you think that couples should take up their wedding themselves?
No, that's what most couples do. I think it's because of the economy. Usually, what is obtainable is you engage an event planner to plan your wedding, because it's a whole lot of stress.
Yeah.
So, sometimes some people collapse in the process. Some people, after the wedding, they are hospitalized.
Okay.
But when you engage an event planner, the person will do everything for you from the beginning of your marriage till the end, including your traditional marriage process. You just have to tell the person what you want. The event planner probably will give you different angles to your resources, what you have, and then you engage them. No matter how small the finance could be, it is not advisable that you take up your wedding yourself.
Well, they say, people say, when you bury yourself, one hand will come out.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? People should organize their own weddings if they can, or should always give it out to event planners?
I think it is best to hand it over to someone whom is a professional
Okay, it's a professional
in that area,
area.
because it would avail the couple the opportunity to do other things that are more important. Now, if you handle it yourself, like he pointed out, the stress weighs down on the person. That's why some couple, those that plan it themselves, you see them on the wedding day, they look exhausted. It is because they've been running around, to see how they can put everything in place. And even during the event, you find out that they skipped certain things. But when you hand it over to a professional knows what is to be done. He has been doing it. It's like an occupation. This is something they do regularly. So they know what to do. They know when to bring in something, what to bring up, and when to bring it up.
Okay.
So it is a good thing to involve them. However, if couples can't afford it, then they could organize some friends. That's why today you have committee of friends.
With your friends, yes.
Delegate them to handle these things, and you have a successful celebration.
Well, that's a very good tip there from Alexander Solomon, and we've also heard from Okechukwu Bowu, an event planner, and indeed a comedian. Now let's look at some other stories that are trending. Afrobeat king Davido has come again. His baby mama Amanda has broken her silence over the trending news of her welcoming a second child with the singer. Recall that it was earlier rumored that Amanda was 6 months pregnant for Davido before he got married to Chioma in 2023. Amid the news making the rounds on social media, Amanda shared a photo of her and her newborn baby. The misleading photo left many assuming it was Davido's child. Speaking on the post on her Instagram story on Friday, Amanda noted that she only has one child with a singer, stating that the baby she was carrying in the viral photo belonged to her best friend. Davido has been on news these days, recently.
Yeah.
First, the story of the video he did, which went viral, and the condemnation from the Muslim sect.
Yes.
Can we connect this story? The celebrities like being like stories. They like being in the news all the time. And here we're talking about marriages. Most time, like we said in one of our programs, most celebrities get involved in multiple relationships. And this concept of baby mama, what does it really mean? What does it really make sense?
It is in this era that word baby mama came trending. You see, like we discussed in one of our program, these celebrities, they want to live an independent life. They want to go wherever they want to go without any family disturbance. And as the life of celebrity, from hotel to shows,
event,
you meet people, you sleep around, and at the end of the day somebody will come up and say, I'm pregnant for you, and you cannot even be sure if it's your child, but sometimes you don't want that name to be tarnished. You accept the child.
Do they really take care of the paternity of self?
Yes, some of them do. Like Timaya, I know, has I think about 3 or more, and he's taking good care of his children, and he said he prefers that kind of life.
Now this baby mama stuff, the video also had one scandal from America, a black American, an African American, who also raised issues, talked about dealing with Davido. Davido was going to pay matrimony fee and all that, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, she paid her. Said she was coming to Nigeria. She was going to mobilize all the baby mamas against Davido. So this trend is funny. Go ahead.
The thing is, I think most of these girls, they enjoy that vibe they get from hanging out with celebrities.
Yes.
If you go out there in the street and you interview a couple of ladies, you find out that most of them would prefer to be a baby mama to a celebrity than to get married, or before getting married.
Yes.
Because it gives them that popularity, and then those that are creative could, take off from there, and they develop their brand. So a whole lot of them enjoy the idea of having something with a celebrity. And they even boast to their friends. If you go on, there was one time a girl,
somebody tattooed her body. That was Tasha.
Yeah,
with Davido. Yeah,
they do it a lot. They just want to get the celebrities' attention, and when they get that attention, they want to do everything to retain it.
Yeah.
And one of those ways to retain it is to have a tie, a tie. Having a child with the celebrity. The celebrity will always want to take care of the child, and because they want to take care of the child, they have to pass through the lady.
The mother, okay.
So that connection remains.
Yes, what you are saying is true. Another celebrity, Tasha, who is a Big Brother Niger celebrity, tattooed Davido on her body because Davido appears to be her idol. And there's this other story that is trending, some kind of vibes on Davido. Do you think that vibe was necessary concerning the video he did? Did he disrespect the Islamic religion?
The Islamic religion, they are, I don't know if I'll use the word extremist. They go extra mile to defend their faith. I don't know.
That's what you mean.
Yes.
Let's not say extremist.
Yes, they go extra mile to defend their faith. Yeah. And most time they fight for God rather than allowing God fight for himself.
That's your perception?
Okay. Yes, we saw the killing in Kaduna. One girl over blasphemy.
Sokoto.
There was one that happened in Kaduna.
Yeah. Okay.
And
it happens here always.
So we know of all these information.
So if you know that
message, he was trying to, in every art there is a story.
Okay.
Whether it is picture art, painting art, he was trying to portray a message, not in a bad light.
Okay, not in a bad light.
But
he didn't intend to have a bad story.
I think he was trying to make it entertaining, including religion into his music, in form of dressing. Or Fast did it in one of his songs, and I think he was also. It was trending then when in one of his songs that he did. I think he was trying to criticize the Boko Haram killings, and then we see a situation where some of the characters in his music were wearing this hijab, and they also criticized that.
So it was in front of a mosque.
Every story must be portrayed the way the writer wants it to
exactly.
be.
And it's without bad intention.
Without bad intentions.
Except that they feel that the environment where it was being exhibited was showing bad intention. So Inca recently insisted that Davido should not apologize.
You know, in Nigeria, you can never be too careful with our Muslim brothers. The reason being that when you go out there in some more advanced...
Apata, popularly known as Tenny, has stated that she thought she was pregnant when she couldn't eat or communicate with the people a week ago. The singer said this while revealing what she went through while battling with her health last week. Tenny, in a video on her Instagram story on Friday, said she was sick and sad at the same time, and very sad at the same time. While telling her fans to thank God on her behalf, Tenny displayed the numerous medications she took before she recovered. Well, that's the kind of story we usually hear, which means she's in a relationship out of wedlock, as it were, and she thought she was pregnant. Do you have any word to throw into that? Because we'll soon run off.
That's a personal
life.
Such
and they always bring
such things should not even make the news.
Exactly. They come in the open to talk about their personal life, and that's a common trend among musicians.
You know, when you see that you are going out of your peak, you look for something.
You invent a story.
You invent something to keep you at the top.
After a while, she will come up with one story about Churchill, and then she'll begin to trend. She'll bring up another thing again, and she'll be trending
and attract attention.
They just do it just to attract attention.
Nigeria is the second nation where the artist's music is most streamed, followed by the United Kingdom. She said the data was released in celebration of Adekunle's grand success as he released his 18-track album, Tequila Like Party No Day Stop, featuring Zenelowski, Omeiko, Do You Mind? And Oga have done so well for themselves in such a way that
a name that ordinary
music. What the problem I have with our music sometimes is the display of body parts, some kind of obscenity. There are some music that are called NTBB, not to be broadcast in regular public space. Do you think that indecency, which is akin to the licentious environment in America, should be encouraged here in Nigeria?
I don't think that should be encouraged, because we have our own kind of practice. Here we don't walk about naked. We don't expose our body. If you take us back to where we are coming from, our tribe, our religion does not accept that. But in that aspect, I think musicians want to copy what they see the white people do. Sometimes when you listen to the music, it is even sometimes they don't portray the message that they try to preach. Maybe you want to talk about governance, or you want to discuss about the state of the nation, and you're showing me a naked girl in your video because you want the video to trend, even though that's what most people want to see. You know, Nigeria, we somehow live a pretentious life. We behave as if we don't go to the club, but we still hide and go to the club and come to the open and say no. So, but for me, I think it is not too necessary. Every music should. There's a way you portray a singer or a dancer without going completely nude, and it will still sell. The nudity is not what is selling the music. It is the song.
It is, and then the art, the performance,
and the beats.
So what's your take on
rhythms.
The issue of nudity is something that it is unfortunate that it is something that has eaten deep into us, such that aside the music industry, even on our streets, you find people, they want to dress in such a way that their body parts are revealing provocatively, and they want to attract that attention, and the musician out there knows that.
Does it really sell? Is it what sells them?
It helps them to attract viewership. It helps them get that viewership. The video, that's the video itself. while what makes the music go far is what you're singing, the act in it, not necessarily the video. But then they use this other aspect to, you know, is a kind of a way of promoting the music.
Are we living in an obscene world? This provocative manner of dressing that we see, is it does it appeal to the mentality or the sensibility of Nigerians and the world at large? Are we living in a world where people enjoy that level of obscenity? Does it really appeal to them? Is it correct to say that if you don't portray your musical video in that manner, you cannot sell?
You know, what they are doing is what is trending in that world. If you don't portray it in that manner, it does not mean that your music will not sell. We've seen several videos that we don't find much nudity in it. You see decent dressing and it still sells. I give you an instance of our Christian music, but it sells. They still make their money from it. But today, the society wants to see those kind of things. Even though I don't subscribe to it, but the society wants to see it, because now we have an Android phone. Someone can just hide and watch. Nobody can. That is why they really go about that. But I don't think without that your music will not sell.
Well, we live in an obscene world, and that's what we are seeing today. Now, he made a comparison. He talked about Christian music selling, even though they don't expose themselves. That is within the Christian. How many Christian musicians, gospel musicians, can you point at to as being as rich as the popular Afrobeat, rhythm and blues, funk, and all those kind of music, popular music generally? Can you point at some of them? Cannot, even Mercy Chinwo, for example, cannot be compared with some of the greats that we see that are ripping off the mind of Nigerians and make so many Nigerians jump out of their skin each time they hear or see them on screen.
The thing is, like he pointed out, our society enjoys such things. The Christian musicians are exceptional. They do a whole lot of nice work. But then when they come in contact with the other, that's the Afrobeat musician, you find out that those within the Afrobeat industry excel more, because they are selling to the wider. So people would want to patronize them for several reasons, like the issue of nudity, portrayal of nudity. You even in our streets, like I earlier mentioned, when a girl dresses that way, you find out that she attracts attention more than the other person.
So we are in an obscene-minded society. We
are in a society where people enjoy such views, even though they pretend not to, but they enjoy it, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to sustain it. And the music industry is helping them do that.
And not all music, really. Some other genre like reggae, you hardly have such. And I'll ask the question, where has reggae gone in Nigeria? Is it because when you read stories about Bob Marley and Jimmy Cliff and some of those musicians, they tell you that reggae got its roots from Africa.
And nobody can stop reggae.
And nobody can stop reggae. And yet, here in Nigeria and most African countries, the rave of the moment is Afrobeat, which is also has African origin. Now you see a situation whereby people can hardly play reggae. If you go for a party and you hear somebody playing reggae, it's like he belongs to Mandator's era, Mandator and all that. But so Afrobeat, why has Afrobeat taken the kind of clout?
You see, reggae is still on. I think the likes of OAU, Rastaman, they're still trying to bring up that reggae. You know what we do in Nigeria, we are business-minded people.
Yeah. We
look at what is trending and everybody will follow suit. Very soon this line of music will go off and then another one will spring up. Sometimes do is when a big artist come up with a particular song and a particular beat and it is selling, the other artists will follow suit. Sometimes they copy beats, go into music because we love this particular aspect of
So
music.
promotions, those of you who are into promotions, you promote more of Afrobeat because you think it's
Because yes,
So-
it's selling
so-
at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, because it's selling at the moment. That's why the promotion is very high.
What about our culture beat? Because there is this Afrobeat subgenre that is called culture
What
beat.
they do now,
I'm not
they-
seeing much of that.
They mix everything.
Everything is mixed.
They mix
So
both.
it's-
You hear a bit of reggae you hear a bit of Afro, you hear a bit of blues. What's it called? So they mix everything. What they want to hear is a dancehall thing, something that can make people.
So it's eclectic.
Yes, they mix everything together. Just like you go to a restaurant and say, "Madam, put obono," and they go sit together with shake.
And they come out beautifully. Now. That's what they call
Yes,
Afrobeat right now.
Yeah.
Now, what's your last take on this?
The thing is, the music industry is still evolving.
Yeah.
We've had the era of reggae, we've had that of R&B, we've had high life here in.
High Life, Rex Lawson was
They
the
even mix
or
highlights.
the exponent.
So the
You have culture beat within High Life too. Go ahead.
the Afrobeat has come. It is the era of Afrobeat. For Afrobeat for reggae or any other genre to take or come back again from from relegation, as I would like to refer to
Yes.
them, it will be very difficult unless a new genre comes up. But going back to something that is past gone is something that is more or less.
Now, can you
impossible.
separate a musician from his music? Because that is psychoanalysis. Can you separate a musician from his music?
You cannot separate a musician. You can separate a musician from his music, but you cannot separate a musician from music,
Okay.
because I've not seen a particular musician that is one-sided, that is doing a particular genre of music. In their album, you still have that of culture, you still have some reggae, you still have some R&B in one album. So you cannot even tell if this musician is a R&B musician.
Yeah.
Or
I'm
a
talking in
dancer.
terms of social psychoanalysis, in terms of his behavior. Can you say, well, this musician is not nonsense musician, I can't listen to his music. His music is not good.
It depends on.
I think what I see in Nigeria, or what I see across, is that no matter how hopeless, unquote, a musician, no matter the kind of lifestyle a musician is portraying, people pay more attention to his music than to his behavior
Yes.
No.
of the stage.
Yes.
Yes.
The thing is, what makes the musician popular is not his personality.
Yeah.
It is the music
The
that
music.
he's putting up.
Yeah.
Now, no matter how he or she lives their life, it won't stop people from listening to them. Let's use
Fela.
R. Kelly, for instance.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Recently, he was sent to jail
Yes.
over molestation. And people still listen to his music. If he should host a show now, you find thousands of people, including those that protested against him, even those that took him to court. Some of them will attend. They are not attending because of R. Kelly. They will be attending because of the music. So no matter how a musician wants to live his or her life, the music continue to excel. As long as they are putting up good beats,
Yeah.
they will continue to sell irrespective of the life they are living.
Well, that's interesting. That's much we can take on this segment of our program, ATN Saturday, our magazine show. And of course, the segment we just ended has to do with entertainment and lifestyle. And you saw that bit of story on marriage that held us to a very long conversation. And the reason for that story, really, that we got that sound and sight and sound, was to herald the discussion that we just went through. And then the last segment had to do with the lifestyle of musicians and their entertainment profile. We'll go on a short break now. When we come, the next segment, which is business and economy. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Every day our lives are changed.
You're welcome back to 18th Saturday on this wonderful frequency, Atlantic Television Network, here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. This is the business and economy segment of the program. Joining me here this morning is the business diva on radio. I'm talking about Ifeoma Onwubute. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I still have Okechukwu Obo here. Alex will come back later.
Pleasure.
You're welcome. My name remains Bon Woke. On this segment, we look at some business stories and reports that are trending. Now let's look at this special report. The high cost of automobiles. The high cost of living in Nigeria is affecting every facet of the economy and social life. Nigeria's inflation rate is climbing to 25%, with the present rate of 22.79 according to NBS, that's Nigerian Bureau for Statistics. This double-digit rate is exemplified by the cost of commodities and services in Nigeria. The Nigerian economy undoubtedly is reacting in different dimensions to the withdrawal of fuel subsidy, which has led to the galloping of prices, especially fuel, transportation, and food. This development, the leadership of the NNPCL have referred to as corresponding to the what they call market forces. Our correspondent, Raymond Kenembata, reached out to Mr. Eugene of Eugene Motors in Port Harcourt for a brief interview. According to the respondent, the prices of cars have gone up because of several factors. First among these factors is the cost of clearance of the customs post. At the customs post, Mr. Eugene says the cost of clearing a car affects the cost of sales, and called on Nigeria, especially customs service, to reduce the cost and time wasting. Time wasting is a very serious issue at the custom post, and the issue of high cost. Now let's look at some of the issues when it comes to cost of clearing a vehicle. He says the imposition of 35% import duty on vehicles is one of the highest in the world. It follows that if a car costs $10,000, the import duty will be $3,500. This is calculated on the value of the vehicle and year of manufacture. This is in addition to VAT, which is 7.5%, and the FIRS tax, which is calculated based on the vehicle's value and year of manufacture. Port congestion is one of the reasons why we have this high cost of clearance. According to him, it's also a negative factor as car importers spend more on demurrage. Demurrage is the money you pay for a car you park at the ports, and the time they spend you pay every day as they stay there without clearance. Importers hope spend more on demurrage. This expenditure adds to the high cost of cars. According to him, cars that are sold for 2.5 million naira now sells at 3.5 million. Some cars which sold at 4 million naira now sell at 6 million naira. Very exorbitant rate, and not many can afford it. And when dealers get this, they add it to the cost of the car. So many people cannot afford a car. The next factor with respect to the increasing cost of cars is the value of the naira in the dollar. The outcome of this development is low patronage and poor sales. Common people in Nigeria are yet at the receiving end when it comes to this, with the attendant hardship that follow. The price of cars and other automobiles have climbed to the rooftops as well. So we have this trend, and let's watch some of the track-ups and some of the interviews that followed this narration.
Now, I've not ordered any car now because the way the situation is this now, we are still checking how it's going to be because the car price now is too high. I have 20 feet container that's I'm trying to clear in Lagos Tinker, but it's like everything is up now, so I'm finding it difficult to clear my container because of the price, the custom, they're adding more money. So something that if you have some cars that we're clearing 2 million, 1.5 is 3 million. So check out. So the problem is that we are trying to know where we can make it easy because the car that we're bringing now, we don't know how much it will take customers because of the change rate and the money they are adding on the cars. You know, one thing is that like now, if you bought car from US, ship it from there to Nigeria. So now when you want to clear it, you calculate all the money so that you can know how much you will sell your car. But now, the money they are telling us before to clear car now, every day they are adding money. Well, I'm just like I'm telling you now, I have car, I want to clear now. The price is 2.5 for one of the car. Now they are telling me I will bring 2.5. So me, I'm going to add the money for the price of my car so that I can sell it out. I will not lose my money. So what I'm trying to say is that the price of car now is more higher than before. So for me, it's difficult for me. I'm begging federal government to do is that the car price, people cannot afford to buy car. Now look at all those ones here. The price is too high. They are increasing the custom rate, the clearance, they are increasing it. Today they will tell us 1.5. Tomorrow you come, they say 2 point something. So if you want to sell the car now, as you are adding the shipping and the buying from US and the custom, the price of the car will high. So people, they cannot afford the money now because the price will be so high. So what I'm trying to say is that if they can adjust this custom clearing this thing, let them bring it down to us. So that's how we coming in. So down. You watch now, people are buying Nigerian use. They can't afford the Belgian cars now, and they are affecting us because we are selling Belgium. So if you want to buy the Belgian car now, when you tell a customer, say this car will 5 million, telling him 10 million to go. So now the car will be staying here affecting us, and our money is tying down. Made in Nigeria, there's time I try to know whether I can market it. The price is too high. They are not affording that kind of price. The car is fine, but the price is high. So when you go, the car is too much, I can't follow. So we need turn up from business. So when your car is staying for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4, 6 months, they are not doing well. So you have to check the car that you bring. The price is not too high, so people can buy it and you buy another one. Now if you are selling this car now, to buy another one I cannot afford. I'll go and look for lower car because the price is high now.
Somebody who sells cars, he was our respondent there with a short interview there as part of our discussion, to actually give a tonic to our discussion. Now, if you look at this interview, his narrative,
Yeah.
he's talking about Belgian car. We're no longer talking about brand new cars, you know. We're talking about fairly used cars, and we can't even afford them.
No, we can't.
Yes.
Businesses have their peculiarities, the challenges affecting them, and lately, I think the fuel subsidy removal has affected different businesses in adverse ways, and clearly, this is one of them. Now, the high cost of living has, in a way, stopped some Nigerians whom were saving to even buy cars from purchasing cars, and now it's even more expensive for them to clear the cars at the ports, you know, which makes it even more expensive for those who actually had some level of savings beforehand. It's like he mentioned, they have cars now there which people are not buying, and then it's difficult to go back and buy more because it would even be more expensive.
Yeah.
Our country.
I know you're going to put it as a comment now.
The wahala is too much.
Yeah.
Some people make savings to buy car, and when you save to a point when you think that the price you were given to buy that particular car, you get up to that money and you go to buy that car, they tell you that it has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Now go back to make more savings. I think one of the problem we have on this issue is because we just have just one port that is working. If all the ports are working, I think some of these issues will be nipped. Just like we have that of MPA
Tinker Island
in Port Harcourt, MPA Port Harcourt. It's not working.
On airport.
On airport, they are not working. So if the government can channel their resources to make our seaports work, by the time you are bringing through Lagos, you're bringing through Port Harcourt, Warri, and the rest of them, car, of course, everybody can afford it by then. Everybody could be able to afford cars, and this issue of price will not be an issue. Recently, I heard that the borders were open, but I'm not sure if cars have started entering through the borders, because these are areas, channels where could make these cars cheaper for people to buy.
Now, the
question of
yes,
marriage, I think that's something that those in that line of business have always complained about.
Yes.
Why do you keep people's goods there for a very long time before they are cleared? It's costing them a lot of money, you know, paying for those goods to be stored, kept safe there at the port. Why not attend to it to prevent, you know, prices skyrocketing also? Because they would definitely add the costs of the demurrage on the goods when it's out in the markets.
I think it's a corruption of in the system.
I think there is some level of insensitivity. We have refused to open other ports in Nigeria. This concentration in Lagos appears to be the problem. And Lagos is making all the money, the fifth largest economy in Africa, like that, as a single state. You know, so, and then you begin to look at Lagos as revenue hub of Nigeria. There are other seaports in Nigeria that could benefit from the kind of revenue that Lagos is making.
Yes.
And there appears to be a cartel, or will I say a power, some kind of powers that be, that want this Lagos monopoly in terms of benefiting from revenue that accrue from ports. And this is having a lot of impact and influence on Nigeria.
It does.
Negatively.
It does.
Today, we don't have much cars on the road. Nigerians are suffering more. It has added to the burden of Nigerians. What you have is push and drive, you know, all over the place. And recently somebody was talking about an alternative.
Yes, the federal government urging Nigerians to take on bicycles. We have countries in the West, Netherlands, Canada, you know, they have citizens over there that use bicycles as a means of transportation. So when you don't have enough saved up to buy a car, which is expensive now, you get a bicycle. And you just pray when you're driving on the highway. You don't get a crazy driver that shifts your hips.
Do we have good roads and paths?
Paths.
Because, you see, the way we pave our road infrastructure in Nigeria is funny. Now, the sidewalk where bicycles can drive are not even safe. You have potholes, you have manholes that are removed. And you're struggling with, you know, those who are walking. And you also have the case of, you know, not providing for even the disabled to roll their wheelchair. I think a lot has to do with the poor road infrastructure that cannot accommodate the disabled and cannot accommodate bicycles. So the issue of bicycle, doesn't seem to arise. Do you agree?
It will first of all accommodate the able, because even the able, when you want to pass that pedestrian walkway, you see,
and not all roads have it.
You see corn sellers, banana sellers, and the rest of them. They occupy that point.
And in a case when the road is congested, tricycle riders would actually want to ply your walkway with you.
That is outside the main city of Port Harcourt. I think the major problem is that tricycles are only allowed in Obiabo and other local government areas. In the city of Port Harcourt, no tricycles. That's the city itself, Port Harcourt local government. And then you have roads that don't even have walkways, only very narrow path. At the end of the road, you have drainage that are not covered. And if the drainages were covered, then you could have people walking on them, you could have people riding on them. Riding on these roads, your bicycle is a very risky business. Right now, as I was coming to work, I saw a lot of people jogging and running and all that.
Yes.
The road provide enough space for them to jog and run? They do that only early in the morning because that's when the traffic's not busy. But they're talking about using the bicycles on a busy traffic in Nigeria. I watched a video on Lagos in the 60s.
Okay.
I saw an organized road structure where you had a bicycle lane, you had a car lane, you have the pedestrian lane.
Okay.
It was so smooth. What has happened to that culture? What has happened to that kind of road infrastructure in Nigeria? It looks so civilized, it looks so sane. And then we had a bicycle culture because not many could afford bicycle. Can we go back to that era, that beautiful era where we had civil servants riding on the road? You have Volkswagen cars, Peugeot automobile, and all that right on the, and they had a straight line. It looked so organized as if it was a kind of parade. In fact, if I had that video, I would play it here. In the 60s, so beautiful. So there was a nation where people did things in an organized manner. Today, that nation doesn't exist.
Today,
so you cannot talk about bicycles.
We can't talk about that.
Except maybe in the rural areas. Even the rural areas, they have potholes. I recall those days in some of the internal roads in the rural areas when women staged a protest that they could not ride bicycles to carry their things to the market. There was a case of a woman who was carrying cassava and carrying so much on the bicycle, and she fell on the wayside because her bicycle jumped into a very big pothole. So even in the rural areas, you don't have that kind of luxury.
Indeed.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and that makes it not really an option Nigerians would take, even though the federal government has urged. However, the cars, on the other hand, would Nigerians be able to afford? It was expensive.
We can't afford the cars, and it maybe could be part of the reasons why the cost of transportation is very high.
It's expensive.
Exactly. Yes. So let's take the next story. I think the next story here is a special report too on cost of fruits and vegetables. You know the importance of fruits and vegetables. Very important. Fruits and vegetables are very important sources of vitamins and minerals, which helps in the proper functioning and protection of the body cells. As an important part of our balanced meal, the significance of fruits and vegetables can never be overemphasized, as they also offer exclusive medicinal values such as skin and constipation remedy, sight enhancement, brain relaxation, weight control function, among many others. On the other hand, vegetables help in the checks and control of blood pressure. They serve as appetizers and also reduce the risk of contracting communicable diseases. A healthy consumption of fruits and vegetables sets the trend for a healthy lifestyle, both as an individual and the family. Thus, it's always said, a garden next to the home makes the heaven on earth. A recent survey on the fruit markets in Port Harcourt by our correspondent Uti Dove shows a huge turn down in the purchase and consumption of fruits and vegetables in Port Harcourt. Let's get a track up.
It's good for the body system. It's build up your system, your health. At least if you are taking food, more life, more nourishing in the body. I think it's okay.
Watermelon and gaji very important for body. Any yama in the bele, they come out. You get the just no way. I don't go eat. If you carry this one, watermelon and the pineapple, you go eat.
This our shop. In the cure something for inside, like liver sides. In the cure and well. In the do this pawpaw. In the make person have belly soft. This shit normal. In the good for body. This achicha is our natural thing in the farm. It be like carrots.
Thanks by the grace of God, because it's hard for people to even eat one apple. Yes, one is 300. Yes, so I don't know if they can. Those markets is just, how will I call it, watermelon 200, cotton. That is the only closed market, because a poor man cannot buy one apple. What about the children?
Senator, the million. Civil servants, the MP not. And civil servants, to bring the small one where the government they give them, come buy apple wey good for the apple, they call apple good. But no way, when they don't think school fees, think house rent, think the transportation, think everything we don't hike for Nigeria, they don't go fit afford this apple, because apple now is about, one is about 250. You understand? So when person will get like 8 children, they earn 15,000 for a secretariat. Why is this saying go fit afford apple?
Some will come, when you tell them price, they will say no. Where they spend money for fuel, come to the food garden to come and buy food and it's high, they will just go. But I think government should do something about the fuel subsidy so that our brothers and sisters, the ones that can afford their bills, can be more better.
If it's not the transport we have been managing, so the fuel transport is very, very much. So the women said they don't even have the money to bring it to Port Harcourt to come and sell.
Interesting narrative there, and one apple for 250 naira. I'm smiling, I'm chuckling because it's surprising. One apple. You know the importance of fruits. Of course, said that in the narration, in that feature there.
Yes.
So what is happening? Because you need fruits and vegetables to survive.
We know the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Nigerians know it, but then it's too expensive. They also want to keep the doctor away, but I think they would go for the foods that would fill them even faster and more. That's why some Nigerians don't really go for the fruits. It's expensive. It's 200. I didn't even know it was 250 naira now. I thought it used to be 100 naira and then 150 naira. I think the last time I got it was for 200 naira. I had no idea it's 250. That's expensive.
Fruit is for big men.
But everybody needs a fruit.
But the poor cannot afford the fruit.
And vegetables, and that's why the poor is sick.
And we are taught that when you before you eat, you take fruit. After you eat, you take fruit. Now you cannot even afford. You know, Nigeria, we are known for 3 square meal. You cannot even afford 2. Then you want to buy fruit when you go belly full. Fruit no go even belly full yourself. You know, we are going for food that will contain this, that will be in the stomach, and it will last for a long time. That's why most families eat garri in the morning and at night. Before it will digest, it needs like 6 hours. So going by the fruit, my brother, it's only for the rich.
Have you thought of how much a person would spend now to make fruit salad? You saw the lady complain also of bananas. Bananas are also expensive now. Let's just talk about some that are also some fruits that are filling. You know, like bananas, watermelon has water, but you could also include it. They are very expensive. And
some of these fruits are imported, like that of the apple.
No, but in Nigeria we now have cucumber. If you go to Igrita area, some part of Oba Ibemandoni local government, some part of Eche, Ikure local government, Emoa local government, we have the soil for cucumber. Part of the reason why you have this high cost of fruits and vegetables is because some of them are not produced in these parts. Cucumber is one of the richest fruit or vegetable. I think it's a vegetable that you have, and it contains virtually all the nutrients and minerals that you need to sustain a healthy body. I think that it's high time we tried mass cultivation. That's why government should intervene in agriculture. If you can't eat apple, you eat cucumber. And cucumber. And you find out that most people don't like cucumber because it's not sweet.
Talking about preferences, right? When you started, I was wondering, because lots of people would actually look at the tastes and would rather prefer to have a pineapple or even an apple and not cucumbers. And that's one thing I know that we can get in the States at a cheaper rate.
Yeah.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper because cucumber is all over the place now.
Yes, all over the
So
place.
it's an alternative. And I've not seen anybody here talk about cucumber as being very expensive. Like you talk about apple being for the rich.
Yes.
Cucumber should be for the poor.
It's also expensive.
I mean, cucumber.
Really?
Yes, it's also everything called fruit and vegetable, they are high. Before, if you want to buy this, is it pumpkin leaf, the traditional ogo leaf,
Yeah.
you buy for 50 naira.
Yeah.
Now you buy for 200 naira.
And that gives blood.
So
It gives
how
blood to the body.
you want to buy, you need food to sustain you first before you now. We see
But that one is important.
we see it as additional food.
The pumpkin vegetable, the ugu vegetable, is what drives, is the driver for the loi and the gari you eat every day. Is it not? So,
It is.
so that one should be available to the poor too.
It is available, but
You know,
sort of expensive, as he has
You
mentioned.
know, it's advised that when you want to eat rice, you get more of vegetables.
Vegetables.
So now you just manage to get 2 cups of rice and you just make small tomato stew. You don't have money to go and buy vegetable again. You see. So this, I think one of the major reason why these things are expensive is transportation.
Okay.
Since we don't have much agricultural farm here. If we do,
But why do we not farm? Why do we not? Why do we not even farm the quantity that our family? How about the quantity our family can take?
Insecurity now is affecting farming. Okay. You know, some people recently, if you over the news, you heard something about herders in the farm.
Sure.
Then some of these kidnappers and hoodlums have taken over the farm for their hideout. So it is affecting. When you come to eating farming vegetable, you want to do it in your compound. You just manage to have a small plot of land, maybe half plot to build your small bungalow that you want to manage. So how do you even go about farming in your... So the system here, it doesn't allow us that, except you have a large, compound. Maybe you have 3-4 plots of land. That's when you now take a part of your house to see if you can farm, and not everything will grow on your soil.
True.
Well, it's interesting, and it's an interesting narrative here, looking at fruits and vegetables. Well, we'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, it's a water break. We'll continue with our discussion on business and economy. Don't get away. welcome back. And let's take more stories on business and economy. Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce has reiterated its commitment to attract investments from the United Kingdom to Nigeria. The newly elected president of the chamber, Ray Ateli, said this during his acceptance speech at MBCC 44th Annual General Meeting. Ateli promised that the executives of the chamber would work hard to take MBCC to new heights. According to him, his plans of action will be premised on building upon the efforts of his predecessor. Now, this is a story on Chamber of Commerce. You have the British Chamber of Commerce, you have the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, you have the American Chamber of Commerce, and they all have their tentacles in Nigeria. The landlords are the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce. It's talking about building efforts that will give much more attention to development in Nigeria. So what's your take on that?
Building effort in terms of funds or attracting
Collaboration,
investors.
because the role of Chamber of Commerce is to stimulate investment, to mobilize. They mobilize the formal sector. Nothing happens to the informal sector. I know that's the question you asked. I know that the Port Harcourt Chamber of Commerce, for example, has virtually every formal sector, event planners, businessmen, companies and organizations, So here we're talking about enticing investors, UK investors, to invest in Nigeria. And you're talking about investment in Nigeria, the Chambers of Commerce, this time we're talking about the Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce, don't seem to be looking at the issue of ease of doing business. Do you think they're looking at that? Because ease of doing business what stimulates foreign investment. Because we're talking about UK investors. If the environment is not, good for them to invest, is that possible?
I think this fear of insecurity is what is affecting it most. Nigeria is not really that safe ground for foreign investors, because this fear of being kidnapped, this fear of business will not succeed when it comes. Remember, in the 80s, in the 70s, Port Harcourt was the hub of foreign investment, where you play with white people, they are all over the area. But these days, they are not like that. If we keep our society safe, I think we even have more investors into the country, and it will boost the economy the more, if only our military could work very well and then nip this insecurity out of the board.
Yeah. Now, security is one of those factors for ease of doing business in Nigeria. How do you see security in Nigeria?
Well,
Charles,
yes.
Wisdom.
Yes.
Wisdom Charles
yes.
has just joined us. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. Security is a very big challenge for Nigerian economy, and it has really affected the economy badly. And when you talk of foreign direct investment, no foreigner will want to invest his or her money in a place that is not secured, because an investor is interested in, one, the security of his assets and every money that he's going to be putting in his establishment. So security is paramount when it comes to direct investment. In fact, our vice president is currently in Russia, St. Petersburg, wooing the Russian companies to come into Nigeria to invest. But I think we as a country, we need to work on our security, because a secured environment automatically will attract investors. But if it's not secured, I don't think investors would want to invest their money in a geographical location that is not properly secured.
Now the chamber, do you see any collaboration among the chambers of commerce? The Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, because in Port Harcourt, I'm not has so much about Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce. You have FASIMA more. They have American Chamber of Commerce too. Do you see any collaboration among these three chambers?
Yes, there is always a collaboration among these three chambers, because one cannot do without the other. And that's the only way foreign investment can boost our economy. So when they come together to, invest in the other, that will really boost our economy very, very well.
Now, are you a registered member of the Chamber of Commerce?
No, I don't belong in that line of...
But you're an event manager, and business people are supposed to register. Do you see them as useful in terms of encouraging investment? Because what the Chamber of Commerce does is to mentor people on business enterprise. Do you see Nigerians patronizing them or going to them for mentorship? And they also help in attracting loans for those who want to invest, SMEs in particular. I think that's the area they should pay attention.
I think orientation is one problem.
And then, yes,
a lot of people don't know about Chamber of Commerce. I think they need to do more of public orientation, enlightenment, telling the people that this is the area they can. I know most times they do December activities.
Yes, these are exhibitions and
exhibition, fair, and the rest.
People see them as just doing exhibitions.
They will just see them as that, but that really Chamber of Commerce is not in the brain of a lot of people. Some people don't even know what they are into, and most times this fund does not get to them, and they don't know how to even apply to be members of this Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, we're talking about British Chamber of Commerce, but we'll come back to Nigeria to talk about the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce. In Port Harcourt, we have Port Harcourt Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Mines, Industry and Agriculture, FASIMA. And a lot of people don't seem to utilize that platform, because what they do is to organize the formal sector. As a business person, for example, do you see yourself aligning yourself with the activities of Chamber of Commerce?
Definitely. I see myself aligning to Nigerian
Nigerian
Chamber of Commerce, because what this organization provides for individuals, it provides a platform whereby if there's any negotiation, any opportunity, you go as a block. And if you approach any situation as a block, you tend to achieve more.
For example, bank loans and all that.
Exactly.
And recently I heard Chamber of Commerce talking about investment in agriculture, palm produce and all that.
Yes.
And they try to enhance the capacity of smallholders. That is the kind of activity that we're looking forward to. Smallholding agriculture is an area in terms of palm products, cocoa and all that, rubber. Do you see that as thriving in Nigeria? Because when you talk about British Chamber of Commerce, you're talking about industrialization, big industry. But we're looking at agriculture, for example, agro-allied industry.
It can strive.
The agri chain,
Yeah, it can. If more resources is put into it.
Okay.
If if Nigerian can channel, during Buhari's regime, he said he wanted to go into agriculture, and that is why the borders were closed for the importation of rice and all that.
And Nigeria became the largest producer of rice in Africa.
That is what they told us.
No, that's what we saw. We saw that. It's clear. It's empirical.
Okay.
But I'm sure you were talking about rice pyramid that was a horse.
If we were the producers of the largest rice in Nigeria, and we cannot afford it, and it becomes expensive for us, so what does it tell?
Okay, I think that what that story tells us is that we should provide the environment, the appropriate environment, ease of doing business for foreign direct investment. And that's what the British Chamber of Commerce stands for, foreign direct investment. You cannot invest in your country alone and enjoy prosperity. You need capital flow into the economy to survive. And that's what MBCC has promised to do. Let's take the last story for this program. World Bank has urged Nigeria to reduce government's borrowing from the central bank if it wants to reduce inflationary pressure on the economy. World Bank's lead economist for Nigeria, Alex Sinnett, said this on Thursday during an economic review session at the Lagos Business School. In his keynote presentation, Sinnett commended the government over its recent economic reforms, but noted that these reforms would have to be sustained for the economy to recover from present shocks and record considerable growth in the near future. Added that a variety of solutions would have to be devised in order to mobilize more revenue, a way that spending will increase to tackle the real priorities in the country. It's a warning there.
Big warning.
The last regime borrowed so much from the central bank. What was remaining was to ask the central bank to start printing money, as Idi Amin did in Uganda. That's what was remaining. And he has said this will increase the inflationary trend. What's the inflation rate now? You have 22 point something percent,
Yes,
and over 22%.
Yes.
And they're saying that our inflation rate will jump to 29%
Yes.
very soon.
Yes.
And where is that taking us? Ghana rose up to 40% recently. And that is going to make Nigeria economy worse than it has ever been. So what do we do to take care of inflationary rate in Nigeria?
There should be some form of regulation. You know, politicians, they are taking too much. You want to finance a particular project, you don't look at what your revenue is, what you get from the state. You go into bank borrowing.
And borrow from
central bank. And at the end of the day, you accrue so much debt for your the next person that will come on board. And when that one starts,
and that depletes the foreign reserve.
Yes. I think they need to regulate the borrowing system and give certain strict measures in borrowing. Because if it is porous, they will just go about borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, even without paying the previous borrowing. They'll keep borrowing, and that will destroy the economy, because by the time central bank is out of money, it warrants reprint. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
because when you borrow and cannot pay, how do you want that sector to survive?
Yes. I think that what you're saying is true. It's like a man borrowing from his savings. You plan your budget for the month and within salary, and you have something for savings, and you finish the entire salary on your current budget, and then you run into your savings to borrow. That will crumble whatever economy you have as a family. The domestic economy will crumble. It will affect the school fees of children. It will affect other developmental issues within the domestic economy. I think that that is not what Nigeria should stand for. We should be a country that have proper economy. Because if you look at our budget, this borrowing issue stems from our budget. We have a deficit budget, a budget that is predicated on loans. You plan a budget now. I usually hear from accountants and economists that it's your revenue that determines your budget. Income and expenditure is always, have this parallel, this relationship. They are not parallel. They are close relationship. It is your income that determines how much you are going to spend. How can you plan an expenditure profile that does not take care of how much you have as revenue? And at the end of the day, you're borrowing from foreign agencies, IMF, from foreign agencies, and then you're also borrowing from your own reserve from central bank. This has happened in many banana countries when Uganda was a banana country. Uganda borrowed to a point where they began to ask their central bank to print more money. And so when they told President Idi Amin, where do you have more money? I said, print more money. Don't you have the printer to print more money? And that kind of economy is not a sustainable economy. It's not the kind of economy that Nigeria expects to sustain as the largest economy in Africa. We are the largest economy in Africa. Our GDP says so. And so we need to sustain it by encouraging production.
Yes.
And which is the first place to start in production?
Yes.
Agriculture, right?
Agriculture, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. For me personally, I don't see any reasons why federal government should embark on borrowing. I have two reasons to support the argument. The first one is this: subsidy has been removed, and federal government told us that they spent over 400 billion subsidizing fuel
monthly.
So if my memory serves me right, for last month I believe 400 billion have been saved, which this money is entering into federal government's account. So going forward, every month federal government has 400 billion to save from the subsidy. Now combining it with federal government agencies, when you talk of the ports, we talk of
revenue
coming from this agency.
FIRS.
Yes, FIRS. Then when you bring all this money
plus oil,
so NFBC now is definitely they are referring to government pause. So government have enough money to fund the budget. Now going into production, I mean, we have the human capacity, we have the intellectual capacity. So we have arable lands, we have everything that it takes.
Raw materials.
The raw materials are there. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be a producing nation. Go into massive production. We have the raw materials, we have the human capital, we have the resources in order to drive this industry. So I don't see any reason why Nigeria wouldn't go into massive production. When you talk of agriculture, you talk of machineries, you talk of fabrications, everything. God has blessed us. We have everything it takes. Just let for our leaders to harmonize the resources the country has and go into full production so that the masses can be employed, gainfully employed, and have a better value for.
I think the World Bank alarm is timely now. We should reduce our borrowing. Reduce. The word is reduce. We didn't say we should stop. We should reduce our borrowing from the central bank, and indeed borrowing from multilateral financial houses is also something that Nigeria must learn to do. Let's make Nigeria productive. President Tinubu promised that he was going to give us a 6% GDP growth, as gross domestic product, and that will make us one of the leading economies in the world. That cannot be possible if we depend on borrowing. It means that we have to resuscitate our capacity to build industries, encourage direct foreign investment, encourage ease of doing business, build our refineries, and do what it will take to become a country of destination in terms of industrialization and economic development and growth. World Bank is right. We should reduce our borrowing. Indeed, we should reduce our borrowing. Well, we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll go into the last segment of this magazine program, ATN Saturday, and that segment is called Governance and Politics, where we talk a lot of issues. We'll have a small report, special report to give you in that segment, and we'll have other stories, and then the discussion segment. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Well, you're welcome back to ATN Saturday, our magazine program. I told you that the program has 3 segments: entertainment and lifestyle, then governance and economy and governance, economy and business, which we just finished. That was the last segment, immediate last segment. And then our final segment is governance and politics. Let's look at some of the stories. Today we have a feature, or will I say a report, yes, a special report. On governance and politics today, we bring you a special report on the list of ministerial nominees presented in Senate Thursday, which will be debated on Monday, 31st of July 2023. That's Monday. Written by Daniel Washington and read in our studio by Valentino Lawrence. Let's hear the track up.
I am pleased to announce to the distinguished Senate and all Nigerians that Mr. President has sent a correspondence dated 27th day of July 2023 to this hallowed chamber, addressed to distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate, requests for confirmation of ministerial nominees. In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate for confirmation the underlisted 28 ministerial nominees. 1. Abubakar Momo. 2. Is not stated. Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tuka, CON. 3. Architect Ahmad Dangiwa. 4. Barrister Hanatu Musawa. 5. Chief Uche Naji. 6. Dr. Beta Edu. 7. Dr. Doris Anite Uzoka. 8. His Excellency David Omaye. 9. His Excellency Ezenwa Nyesom Wike. 10. His Excellency Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, CON. His Excellency Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, CON. 11. His Excellency Nasir Ahmed El Rufai, CON. 12. Right Honorable Ekperikpe Ekpo. 13. Honorable Nkiru Onyechiocha, Onyechiocha. 14. Honorable Olubumi Tunji Ojo. 15. Honorable Stella Okotete. 16. Honorable Uju Kennedy Ohaneye. 17, Mr. Bello Muhammad Goronyo.
The long-awaited list of ministerial nominees have been submitted to the Red Chambers of the National Assembly in Abuja. This development brings to an end the speculations that resonated in the polity on the possible politicians that would make the elite list of President Tinubu cabinet. It also brought to an end the anxiety on whether the president would meet the 60-day statutory deadline for the submission of ministerial list. The 28-man list includes former governors, former ministers, technocrats, and former ministers and eminent politicians. The list read by Senate President Godswill Akpabio on the floor of Senate includes the following persons: Abubakar Momo of Edo State, a professor of political science and present Director General of INEC. Usuf Maitama Tuga from Bauchi State. He is a professional in oil and gas consultancy and an experienced organizational analyst. Ahmed Dangiwa from Katsina State. Dangiwa is the Managing Director and CEO of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Hanatu Musawa from Katsina State. She is a lawyer by profession and has practiced in the United Kingdom and Nigeria. A writer, lecturer, activist, and Deputy Director Public Affairs of APC Presidential Campaign Committee. Uche Nnaji from Enugu State, APC Guba candidate in the last Enugu Member Board of Directors, Federal Capital Development Authority. Betta Edu from Cross River State, former Commissioner for Health, Cross River State and National Woman Leader, APC. Doris Anite Uzoka from Imo State, a Quality Control Officer at Aero Contractors, Nigeria Limited, and Result-Oriented Health Policy and Management Expert. David Umahi from Ebonyi State, former governor, current senator representing Ebonyi's South Senatorial District. Yesom Ezenwo-Wike from Rivers State, former governor of Rivers State, a lawyer, life bencher, and former minister of state. Mohammed Badiru Abubakar, former governor of Jigawa State, a member National Council on Privatization. Nasir El Rufai, former minister of Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, former governor of Kaduna State. Epiripe Epo, former member, House of Representatives from Cross River. Nkiru Onyejiocha, member, House of Representatives, representing Isokwato, Umunechi, Abia State, Deputy Chief Whip, House of Rep. Olumbumi Tunji Ojo from Ondo State, entrepreneur, former member, House of Representatives. Stella Okotete, former Executive Director, Business Development, Nigeria Export and Import Bank. Uju Kennedy Ohaniye from Anambra, a legal practitioner, APC female stalwart presidential aspirant. Bello Mohammed Goronyo, senior advocate of Nigeria, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice from Sokoto State. Dele Alake from Ekiti State, a professional journalist, former Commissioner of Information and Strategy, currently Special Advisor to the President, spokesperson, APC Presidential Campaign Council. Larif Fabemi, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Mohammed Idris, publisher, public relations professional, Niger State. Oluwale Edun from Ogun State, currently Presidential Advisor on Monetary Policies, former Finance Commissioner. Wahid Adebanwo, Chairman Board of Directors, Interbank Settlement System. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Director General of National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. Professor Ali Pate from Bauchi, Executive Director and Chief Executive of Primary Health Care, a physician. Professor Joseph Usev from Benue State, renowned civil and water engineer. Abubakar Kiari, former senator representing Borno North Senatorial District, former Deputy National Chairman, North APC. John Eno, former senator representing Cross River Central Senatorial District, APC governorship candidate. Sani Abubakar, former governor, deputy governor of Taraba State, former senator.
Well, you're welcome. I'm sure you got that feature, that special report filed in by one of our reporters, talking about Daniel Washington, and read in our studios by Valentina Lawrence. Well, it's an insight into the resume of some of the people that we have, the Senate has received and are trending in the media. Monday is the date for the full debate in the Committee of the Whole. And of course, we are aware that 13 more names are also going into the Senate, according to Chief of Staff Bajabia Mila in his briefing. 13 more names will join. And of course, we realize that 11 states were not represented here, and more states where some states got more slots. And the documentation has actually begun from what the minister said, from what the Chief of Staff said, and the liaison officer of the president in the assembly. So, gentlemen, how do you see the list? Monday, the storm will begin. There are 7 women and there are 4 former governors.
Yeah. I don't know.
Go ahead. Let's get your insight.
We
have here in the studio Pakado Kubo. He has just joined us. And Alexander Solomon was here in the first segment. He's back on his seat. So you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me here. I think it's a very interesting list. But for me, the very beginning about it all, just like my own attitude and approach to all of what is happening about the entire governmental setup, is this issue of when you are looking at things like this, you have at the back of your mind, oh, there's a case somewhere. And then we are speaking as if there is nothing. You know, sometimes we address it as if nothing else is at stake. I mean, all things are just okay. But we all do know that at the back of our minds, that all of this are still not, they don't appear really settled. You still have something. They're coming is still something that you need to approach with some level of caution or whatever. But at the end of the day, what it means is that we can only speak as at the moment.
No, let's talk about what we have.
Yeah,
yes.
Not forgetting that a case is still.
We know that even that resonated when it came to the issue of Nigeria coup. That resonated, and a lot of people said there doesn't seem to be credibility in the voice of the chairman of ECOWAS because of what he has hanging behind him. But we're looking strictly at the merit of the list, the distribution, the quality of the persons in that list, even though we still have 13 more coming on the stream.
13 add to 28, that would be 41.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the truly hit the ground running. Now, he was sworn in May 29. But before May 29, the result of this election was announced on March 1st. And so from March 1st, he was, as it were, president-elect. We will be wondering, what was he doing? Until May 29, he came into office and had to stay for another 2 months to roll out a list. And I'm really wondering, is this president really ready? Is he really prepared for this job? It doesn't appear to me like he actually hit the ground running. If there was any hitting the ground running, what he did was subsidy is removed. Now, even that came from me as a person I saw in his speech. So, all the while now, since then, it's been struggling and struggling and struggling. And Nigeria, the economy has moved from, as it were, bad to a worse state. And Nigerians are really groaning. So, in the kind of polity and the economy that we have now, this list of ministers, how much can they help? We are in crisis, whether we like it or not. Today, we're not just talking about security crisis. We're now talking seriously about economic crisis. So how much of this? We have a potpourri of politicians, a sprinkling of technocrats, and for me, for some, it's a matter of compensation. People have done this much for you. You need to actually show gratitude, as it were. Because otherwise, some of these persons that we have seen have been this way before, done so many things. And you're wondering, what new ideas are they bringing to the table? Nigeria, at the moment where we are, needs people with fresh ideas. Because if you keep doing the same thing over again and then you're achieving the same result and then you're applying the same method, it will look like something else is happening to you. So one would have expected truly a cabinet that would look at and say, yes, this is freshness in terms of the faces, freshness in terms of course, the faces that we have seen, we can also add ideas to them because they have been there all along and we have seen them before. But how much has it brought Nigerians? Even the president himself, for me, I don't even exonerate him from the disaster of the past 8 years. That's the entire APC setup. From the very beginning, he sold Buhari to Nigerians. I heard him say, compare him to Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, he made him.
I heard him compare him to Winston Churchill and all of these people, and then sold him that. And for 8 years, Nigerians today know better that we are not really.
Yes, I think at the Pakata, the vice chairman, national vice chairman of Nigerian Union of Journalists, South. Thank you for that insight. That was a very wonderful insight he has given because he started from the beginning.
We need technocrats, more of technocrats. We don't need recycling the same set of people. These people, some of them have served in different states and they did very well. No problem. Why not we get a different person? We get a new face, someone with a new idea. These other people can be there as stakeholders, elder statesmen, giving advice to the younger generation on, okay, this is how you should have done it. They will also perform a function instead of submitting their names as ministers to man these ministries. Now, aside that, the issue of a gender balance, I think, going in there for this position, to man this ministry, at least the masses, or those that would screen them, the senators will know, okay, how competent is this person to handle this particular office? You don't get a situation where maybe at the end of the day, banker will be the Minister of Finance, and then you expect the person to perform very well.
You want an economist to be there? Minister of
no,
Finance?
sorry, I mean a lawyer, sorry.
A lawyer.
Where a lawyer would then be appointed to the Ministry of Finance, and you want them to perform well. No, it won't work. We need a situation where you submit the names with the portfolio so that if we are assessing them, if we're evaluating their competence, we evaluate them on the basis of their past record and their potentials within that ministry.
During the Senate session there, when somebody to abdicate to becoming a minister, what is he looking for?
Honestly, I would have...
Talking about Mai.
I would have thought that Mai... I guess he's actually very confident that whatever deal he may have struck with the president would keep him as a minister maybe for 4 years. Otherwise, you have a secure job. You know, as a senator, 4 years is secure. There's nobody who's going to touch it except your constituents. And you know how difficult it is to recall any lawmaker. But for him to now get into the ministerial position where the president, can wake up one morning and say, I don't
exactly.
do services anymore.
And then the point is not even about...
But then, yes, his constituents, the people of Ebonyi South, elected you. You put up yourself. You are the one who came out to say, look, I am up for service. And then you now leave them in the...
So where's integrity?
And then decides to cross over There are so many things that are involved there. For me, in this case, I will be asking, did you actually take a recourse to the people? Did you consult them? It's the honorable thing to do. If I hold your mandate and I'm going to do something different from what you have asked me to do, and if I really respect you, and there's a lot of regard for the people, then it would have been proper for him to revisit, to tell the people, see, this is what is on ground now. What do I do? And this is what
should have consulted
the people.
And that should have been in the public space.
Of course.
So here that the people said,
the
okay,
people
you can
said,
go.
okay, you can go.
And
then you can now move.
Yes.
But then he's not the first person. Look at Bajabia Miller.
Yes, former speaker.
The former speaker, he was re-elected. And then what happened? He didn't even allow himself to be sworn in, to be inaugurated.
No, he was there. I think he was there.
No, he wasn't inaugurated.
Okay.
He didn't go. He didn't even collect his certificate of return. And then he just left it there. So for me, it shows a lot of disrespect to the people.
To the people.
I honestly don't understand it.
And when you are giving somebody something on the basis of reward, the expectation should be different from when it is given on the basis of competence solely. These are two different issues. So it is good we have professionals. They may live up to the expectations of the people with time. Time will tell. But then, why does it have to be on the basis of you have done something for me, therefore have this office? Political offices shouldn't be for, ministerial offices shouldn't be for reward. Use it to say thank you to your friends. It is not a family affair. It's not a committee of friends affair. This is a national issue. We are talking about those that will rescue us from the current economic mess.
Well, it's a political office. We're talking about political office. Yes.
I could have a different.
Yes, exactly, because it's politics.
About it. See, what is wrong if I want to say thank you and the person is qualified?
It's qualified, yes. And it's a politician who delivered.
If this is politics, at the point this person was in the, as it were, in the battlefield, this person was by his side. In fact, maybe by whatever contributions he made, he was able to, he came out victorious, as it were. And the person has a competence. I do not think that just because the person is that close, he should not be, given that office. As long as the person is competent to deliver. And that is why in certain areas you find, okay, let's even, a place like the US, yeah, you say, I'm sure in Nigeria it will really, Nigerians will never take it. A father becomes president, and just only about one tenure after, another person.
George Bush was, his son was governor in another state.
And then became president. And his own younger brother was governor somewhere. So it's, for me, it's even an added advantage. Because you are running an office where you need people that you can also trust.
And there should be synergy, there should be harmony.
These people have your vision.
Yes.
These people know your vision as
your ideology.
They know what your mindset is, and then you don't need to struggle to sell them exactly what your focus is and all that. So it's easier to get along with these ones. But
their sponsor actually did so much, and so they must be there because they have a godfather.
Whether they are working or not, they feel they are entitled. It is their right.
It is their right. Of course, they worked for it, and therefore,
that is one thing the presidency must avoid. If these people are cleared from Monday, and we're going to have about 41.
If I would say when.
No, okay, when they are cleared on Sunday, on Monday, from Monday.
I don't see anybody touching it.
They are facing the committee of the whole, and maybe they will go into committees and all that. And let's hope that next time we'll have a presidential list that has portfolios attached. I think that is one important thing. And our expectations are high because if you ask me, they are Nigerians and they are professionals in different categories, and they are also politicians. There's nobody there who is not a politician. And of course, before you become a politician, if I become a politician today, won't you say I'm a technocrat?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, that's
because
good.
of course you're taking something.
Exactly. So sometimes when we talk about being technocrats,
Except those
who just
professional politicians.
Exactly. Professional politicians. Some of them are technocrats in their own right. They may have had experience in industry, in other spheres of life, and then dabble into politics. So that's what it is. Let's see what Atlantic Television Network Saturday, a magazine. Federal government has inaugurated a 27-member committee to immediately commence work on the 2019-2023 National Youth Policy. Director of Press and Public Relations, Federal Minister of Sports and Youth Development, Mohammed Manga, said the inauguration was in accordance with the timeline for the review. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Ismaila Abubakar, who inaugurated the committee, said the aim was to ensure that the ministry had a befitting policy document that will serve as a guide for the development of the nation's teeming youth. Youth development in Nigeria. Is it development of hungry youths? Let's look at it. And you took a deep breath. That's what you should be doing. Yeah. But this one went with a chuckle, and sometimes when you have this inner laughter, it means there is something that you don't find very pleasant.
See, the problem I have in this country is that we politic too much. Politics is too much. We play politics with everything, including our lives. If you're going to develop, let's say 2019 to 2023, so what they're doing is a review. The question is, okay, within the period you implemented this, what have we to show? What's that? What are they reviewing? You're just reviewing paper, or you are reviewing exactly what we have on ground? I don't understand it. And then people just want to be politically correct. Just want every now and then we hear youth. We're advocating for the youth. We are going to include the youth to inclusivity. They will mention the
inclusivity.
Youth every now.
How many youth did you have in that?
At the end of the day, when they get into office, the youth become canon for that.
Yes,
that is what eventually will.
That's what we have now. You're a youth in all sense of the word. They are talking about a commission, a committee to review national youth policy. What do you expect in that kind of policy for the youth of Nigeria?
Well, we've always had the issues of review. We're always reviewing things.
What do we have there? What are we reviewing in the first place?
That's the problem. For me, as long as I'm concerned, what we've had is a propaganda of development.
Okay.
Not development itself. Because any development that doesn't pay attention to human capital is a propaganda of development. Now, we live in a country where you have majority of the youths. Okay, out of 200 million people, I believe the youths are more. And not just anyhow youth, but you have youths whom are technocrats in different fields. When they leave the shores of this country, wherever they go, they dominate. And then you've not been doing anything to bring them into governance, into policy making. All you have to do is you inaugurate one committee, and maybe you start up something like N-Power, you pay them 30,000. And at the end of the 30,000, you don't care whether nobody cares to. There should be venture capitalists out there. There should be a system that rewards hard work, a system that is structured in such a way that when a youth comes up with a good idea but doesn't have the finance to run it, there should be a system that would serve as a backing. You could provide a platform for that youth to excel. But we don't have things like that here. What we normally have is a committee of this on youth, committee of that on youth. And then the committee will sit, they will discuss, you budget a whole lot of fund for them, they will discuss. After discussing, they present a large document, and then they hand it over to the president, and then there will be another review of that document. By the time you finish reviewing the document, you have about 4 years. We are talking about the election, and then we go into voting. They assure us, now we've seen the list. When we come in, we implement them. Now, when it is time to implement them, we start again with some sort of review. We need to amend something because time has changed. We need to change something. This cycle repeats year in, year out. We've not seen anything done for the youth. if you go out there in the street, any youth you see selling is selling solely on the basis of.
If I find it difficult to include them, because you have not sufficiently trained them to, to have the necessary skill and capacity to actually function at that level. So here you are. When at the end of the day they ask, oh, the youths that we're talking about, incidentally, the youths of Nigeria actually help themselves.
Okay, that's the point.
As we speak, a lot of the youth organizations that we have are mere political jobbers.
Carrying portfolios of politicians. Yeah.
You have National Council of so youth, this one youth, all the youth organizations.
And they are the first to congratulate you once you are appointed.
The moment they are always congratulating those ones they know from where they can have something. What has happened to even the student union government? This is
there was. Recently I saw one of the polytechnics where they declared a lecture-free day for the SUG president to celebrate 100 days in office. Okay, so
they are learning politics.
Okay, so the thing is,
is one about role modeling. You know, go ahead, my brother.
It is a very bad one because such incident doesn't put the youths in good light. We as the young people out there, I think we also have our homework to do. We have our homework because we can't be complaining of politicians not taking us serious, and then we are not taking ourselves serious. You have cases where as soon as the cases of appointments, very soon, as soon as they appoint them, you go on air, you hear different youth organizations congratulating them. Nobody is interested. Even when a leader is not performing, you hardly see any youth organization criticizing them.
Yeah.
Okay? Instead, they come up to defend them. Why can't you criticize? Criticism is not it.
Yes.
I could be
viable. Yes, we know viable ventures. We know that government is not encouraging them. But self-help has been the driving force of so many Nigerians that have excelled in music, in creative industry, in ICT, and all that. The majority seem to be sitting on their oars, as it were, and getting into the negatives like Yahoo and all that. And the question we ask is, what are the leaders doing when it comes to this so-called policy, trust, to bring our youth back to the path of rectitude and make them get focused? Are they providing that environment for them to go into SMEs, to go into some of these creativity we talked about? I know you said the problem is that the youths pull themselves off with their bootstraps. Nobody seems to be helping them.
No.
For me, it boils down to, see, if those who are able to keep their heads are doing so well. And today, yes, in Nigeria, what I would like you to know, we cannot say, we cannot just lump everybody together and say, oh, Nigerian youths are. No, they have been so, they've done so much, so well for themselves.
Yes.
Look at the creative industry, all youths, striving for themselves. Now, if you still have so large a number doing what they ought not to be doing, that blame should go squarely at the doorstep of the government. The moment, because government, nobody can outdo government.
Yeah.
Nobody.
And the youth cannot be better than the government.
They cannot be.
Can be better than the environment.
I only talked about this group because the moment you have been you put yourself under an umbrella, one would think that you should have ideals. And if you have ideals, you will now be speaking for the generality of the youth.
Yes. So
it becomes important that
start it up immediately.
To register a business.
Registering a business is a very big challenge.
To have an office.
Even overtaxation. There are too many challenges out there. So you have young people whom are willing to go out there, do something on their own. And there are a whole lot of people doing things, wonderful things on their own. And what encouragement do they get from the system? A system that tries to push them out of the line. Okay, and then when there are other spectators watching them. Okay, this person has tried, and because of the environment, the business environment is not encouraging. So why should I repeat the same process? Why not I try something else? And then some people resort to fraud, but then there are just very few of them. If I want to access loan, I go to the banks. Do they listen to me? Even when you have collateral,
they ask you to drop your degree as collateral. No, that kind of thing can happen.
If they can allow that, it will help. I have a friend whom has gone to a bank for, there's always, they keep turning you around until you get discouraged. You know, you go to bank today, they give you a condition, why didn't you get this other document? And then getting that document will take you more than a month. So before you know it, you've already lost interest. You remember, this is something that has to do with passion. And then passion fades with time. So we should provide an enabling environment for the youths to do what they love doing.
Okay. And it's the rhetorical something.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, really, truly implement it.
Yeah.
It will be, somebody can, I mean, after secondary school, decide I want to be alone.
Yeah.
And then you have the right policies, like I've said now. There's a place where being a young person from this, I mean, we just graduated with the right skills and all that, you have somewhere you can go to. I mean, because if at your primary, secondary school, you have solid. The other day, I don't know if it was here, I mentioned, see, when we were growing up, standard 6 could give you any kind of job, managerial jobs.
Education, because education was tight.
Standard 6.
And with school set, we did a lot.
With school set, you're
a professor.
And that is why in our constitution, they now tell you
the minimum is school certificate.
Minimum is.
And there was
a time it was even